Congress is trying to come up with legislation that would help those folks in California. We've had Representative Barney Frank on the show just last week to talk about his plan. Now, it would expand FHA, letting it refinance $300 billion in loans for at-risk borrowers. But our next guest, hey, he doesn't think that's a good idea. Joining us from Washington is Congressman Jeb Hensarling. He's a member of the House Financial Services Committee that is considering this bill. Now, explain to me, sir, what are your objections to the Barney Frank bill?
Well, first, the person that we're trying to help here is the person who did it right. And when you're struggling to make your mortgage, you shouldn't necessarily be compelled to pay for your neighbor's mortgage. Especially when we know a lot of people speculated. Frankly, there was a lot of mortgage fraud. The Financial Crimes Network, a part of the FBI, has said that there has been a 42% increase in mortgage fraud. And so, again, when people are struggling, as their paychecks are shrinking, to sit there and think that they're going to have to be on the tab for $300 billion of exposure when they're struggling to make their mortgage payments, is just not right.
Let's go back to your first idea there about the fraud in the industry. You've said that it wasn't predatory lending, it was predatory borrowing. You put some of this responsibility right at the feet of the folks who were borrowing the money.
Well, frankly, there's a lot of responsibility to go around. There's no doubt that there was some predatory lending. But according to our statistics, over half of the mortgage fraud had to do with borrowers who lied about their assets, lied about their incomes, lied about whether or not they were going to occupy the home. And so, again, a guy who may have lived in a cramped apartment for years to put together his down payment, had to work overtime to meet his mortgage payments, for him to have to bail out the other guy just isn't right. It's just not fair.
All right, let's get to your other point. You talk about $300 billion being way too much money to put behind this. Let's hear what Barney Frank had to say about that tab.
Only if every single person who got a financial guarantee defaulted and none of the property was worth anything when we sold it, would it be $300 billion. We've worked with the Congressional Budget Office. They've told us that at a guarantee level of $300 billion, authorization of $300 billion, you're talking about between 1 and 1.5% of that, maybe $3 or $4 billion is the most likely range that it might cost the taxpayers.
So Representative Hensarling, Barney Frank there saying it's not going to cost anything like $300 billion. That's just the backstop. Do you agree, or does he have this number wrong?
Well, of course not. I've got a lot of respect for our chairman, and he's got a lot of talents, but accounting is not necessarily one of them. We were told that back in the whole savings and loan debacle back in the 80s that the taxpayer would never have to pay for it, that this insurance fund would be enough. Well, we know it ended up costing the taxpayer about $150 billion, money that could have been used for low to moderate income people to send kids to college. And so what we know is under his plan, that people will dump Wall Street. You can't bail out borrowers without bailing out lenders. And so this is kind of a Wall Street bailout bill. And they'll see their worst.
Let me interrupt you just for a second. Your solution to this crisis, a capital gains tax cut, isn't that just the solution that Republicans always put on the table, no matter what's going on in the economy?
Well, the solution we put on the table is to create more jobs and more opportunity. And it's not just theory that we have. The entire economy needs help. It's not just housing, the entire economy. We've got to protect paychecks. We have to grow paychecks. And every time we reduce corporate gains tax rate, you've got $1 trillion of money sitting on the sidelines that could be used to help refund and to help jumpstart this economy. That's what we need. You can't have capitalism without capital.
Well, Representative, thanks for your time today. We appreciate it.